Get started to respect those that showed up on time. So thank you for coming tonight. I'm Jim Couch. I'm city manager of the city of Oklahoma City. And tonight is the fourth and final planOKC open house. And we are here tonight to, one, celebrate and acknowledge the time and contribution that residents, business owners, community leaders, and city staff just committed over the past 4 years. Two, to provide a plan or an overview to the plan document, which is incredibly comprehensive in scope. And three, invite citizens to take a look at the final draft over the next 2 months during the final public review and comment period for the plan. The City Planning Department facilitated a very thorough planning process that included numerous workshops, public meetings, surveys, and online tools. We convened city staff working groups from multiple city departments to define challenges facing the city in providing quality services to our citizens and to recommend strategies to ensure highest quality of services. We've had stakeholder groups focusing on each of the plan's 8 elements. We've had Healthy Communities Oversight Group focusing on the overall goal of building our community and to promote public health. We've had focus groups for the section of the plan dealing with land use and development in environmentally sensitive areas. And we've had a citizens advisory team, which was a diverse 27-member mayor-appointed group representing all the different topic areas of the plan. How many of those folks for the 27-member mayor's-appointed group are here tonight? Very good. Thank you for your efforts. Okay, so how many of you participated in one of those groups that I mentioned? All right. How many of you participated or took a survey or an exercise online? All right, very good. How many of you went to a workshop or a public meeting? Very good. I really thank you for that, because that's the type of input that we needed and we're trying to get to get the document that we have today. You know, we are very distracted in life. We have a lot of things to do. Miami Heat may be playing the Thunder at 6:30 tonight. You know, we have kids that have soccer practice. We've got church activities out there. We've got a lot of things pulling at our time. And for you to come and commit to this project and be involved in this project is something that we really, really appreciate and we really, really need in the community. We don't want just a few coming up with the direction and the policy to lead the city in the future. We want broad-based citizen engagement, and we tried to achieve it. We gave a lot of different efforts. I think we achieved it, but you never really know. But we really did try from a lot of different methods to get the citizenry involved. And so thank you again for your involvement. We have a short video to show you, and then after that, Aubrey Hammond-Tree, our planning director, will provide a general overview of the plan. And then after that, we will invite you to enjoy refreshments in the lobby, where our excellent and trained professional planning staff will be available for discussion or to answer any questions you may have. So with that, Aubrey Hammond-Tree. No, after this we have the video. Then Aubrey.
The City of Oklahoma City has been very, very involved and very committed to making sure as many people as possible are involved in this plan. It truly is the people's plan, in that neighbors and neighborhoods and individual citizens have been involved and invited all along the way.
planOKC is Oklahoma City's roadmap for the future. This comprehensive plan will guide us in achieving our goal of continuing to build a healthy and safe city with thriving schools, dynamic neighborhoods, growing businesses, and outstanding, sustainable public services. Whether it's carefully planning a new neighborhood or strengthening a historic one, protecting our parks and natural resources, or widening an important roadway, planOKC includes guiding principles carefully aligned with our collective vision as a city. Thousands of Oklahoma City residents, business leaders, and community stakeholders from every walk of life have spent years contributing to planOKC, and it reflects their ideas, passion, and resourcefulness. planOKC seemingly covers every base, from arts and culture to utilities and public safety.
planning is it impacts both us and it impacts the citizens, and the better planning we can do, you know, hopefully the better service that we can provide as a law enforcement agency.
And I think it's going to be this amazing guide to get us to become the city that we really want to become, and within the economic reality of a central United States city.
You will be impacted by what is in this plan, especially for parents and children in school. They have plans and policies and implementations that will affect the future of that child, and because that child is our future, it would behoove every person in this city or anyone who wants to move into the city to take a look at what the plans are for the city in the future.
So join us on Tuesday, January 20th at 6 p.m. inside City Hall for a planOKC open house.
I guess you guys got that message because you're here. Again, thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate all of you that raised your hands, that have been involved, and the fact that you're here now is never too late to be involved. I was just speaking to some people a few minutes ago about the fact that this is a comprehensive plan that we have built with a lot of input and thoughtful participation over several years, but this is not the end of developing a plan. We want this plan to be a living, breathing document that we use and that we continue to modify and update as our city grows and changes. So any inputs that you can provide for the document that we are going to move forward and adopt, we want to encourage you to do that, but we also want you to continue to be involved with the city as we do grow, as we do use this plan to make decisions to help us make it a better plan for the future. So we will be doing consistent updates, annual reviews and evaluations of the plan, and hopefully coming forward every year and strengthening it and making it a better plan for our use. So tonight what I'd like to do is give you an overview of what the plan is, how it works, and give you a little bit of background into the process that we went through to prepare the plan. And then we want to have time to invite you to go out into the lobby where we'll have refreshments, and we'll have our staff on hand with boards that talk about each one of the plan components. If you have a specific interest in any of those pieces, we'll have staff available to answer your questions one-on-one. So that's how we're set up tonight. And I wanted to start with giving you a brief overview. The fact that you're here makes me think that you know what a comprehensive plan is, but we always like to clarify what it is and what it isn't. It is a very long-range plan document. We have to project growth and patterns and trends out for decades so that we understand where we're going and how we might need to respond to that growth over the coming years. In our plan calculations, we looked out to 2050 so that we could get a handle on how many people and jobs we were going to have to accommodate in our community in that period of time. This document is a document that the city uses, developers use, and the public uses. It is a policy document, which is different from a regulatory one, say like what zoning would be on your property or what a city ordinance or code would be, which is a mandatory thing. A planning document is a policy document that gives people information and direction for making decisions and making changes in the future. We have to address all of the components of our community in a comprehensive plan, everything from looking at all of the inputs that come in decision making, how a city grows and evolves. It's a complicated organism. It involves people and jobs and community, neighborhoods, new development, existing development, public safety. All of these things work together and interact together, and therefore we have to think about it as those pieces that one has an impact on the other. The purview of the plan is not just limited to what the city or city government can do and does do on a daily basis. Our plan reaches out into the community, understanding that there are partnerships that we can form, there are policies and practices that we can make better and improve with how we interact with the community. We can develop new programs that maybe didn't exist in the past. We can get public involvement, and we can work together as a community to make a realization of all of our overall goals. So the big question at hand is, how do we plan for all of these complicated pieces to come together and project out where we're going as a community? What we looked at is where we are today. About over 600,000 people live in our community today. And when we look at the next several years of growth, we're projecting 300,000 more people, half of our population, adding back in, with 170,000 more jobs coming to Oklahoma City. Where are those people going to live? Where are the jobs going to be located? What is the quality of our community going to be like for those new populations moving in, and how do they affect the existing residents that are here? So how should we grow? How do we interact with that? Where we're going to live, work, and play, and learn? And that is a big question. It takes a lot of thought. And what we have gone through is an extensive process of first identifying what our community's issues are, understanding what our citizens are concerned about, looking at trends that have happened with the way that our city has grown and the way that we've responded to that growth over the years. We wanted to make sure that we really understood it. It wasn't a perception, but it was validated. So we conducted many surveys and studies to make sure that we really understood the dynamics, that's quantifiable information. We also worked with our community to set goals of where we would like to be, understanding that we have these issues and challenges presented to us. And then we started developing strategies and policies that we could start to implement to achieve those goals over the coming years. We ended up looking at growth patterns for the city and how those growth patterns would influence how we could achieve those goals, and put all of this content together into a small 400-page plan document. So we are here now at the end with the 400-page plan document, understanding that it is very complicated, it is a lengthy read, there's a lot to cover. We want to invite each of you to take a look at that, and we're not asking you to have comments about that on the spot tonight. So we have extended a public review and comment period over a 60-day period to give you plenty of time to think about and read and give us your feedback on that plan. Then it will go through the adoption process, which also involves an opportunity for the public to come speak in public meetings, several public meetings the Planning Commission will hold and Council will hold before the plan is in effect. And as I mentioned, even once the plan is adopted, there's still opportunities to improve upon that plan over time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you all have been involved. Since many of you raised your hands, you've already been doing some of these things. But what we've tried to do throughout this process is understand the way that the community needs to engage with city government. In our past planning efforts, years and years ago, the model was to hold public meetings, to appoint people or assign people responsibilities to participate on teams or in groups, to come to a location after work or during the workday and sit down at a table and pull up your sleeves and work. Well, as our city manager mentioned, we all have very complicated and busy lives, and that model has not really been the best model for today's age. So we've tried to adapt our public engagement to allow people to participate online at different times during the day in different locations around the city. We have gone out to meetings that people were going to from groups and organizations around the city, and we've tried to get as comprehensive of a public engagement process as we possibly could so that we could reach as many people as we could. So those inputs are very important to the planning process, is to actually work with the community to set those visions, goals, and strategies for the plan. But as I mentioned, the studies, analyses, and surveys were also very important tools for this process, and I wanted to let you know the depth that we went into at that. Some of the studies and analyses that we've done are to look at housing demand in Oklahoma City, to think about the housing stock that we currently have, and is it meeting the needs of residents we have today and residents we expect are going to come to Oklahoma City looking for a certain housing type, or as people age, the types of housing that they might be looking for in the future if they stick around and move within Oklahoma City. So it's important information for us to figure out how we need to respond to that and how developers might need to respond to that with the product that they're delivering. We also wanted to understand how we get by in the competitive retail market that cities have today. Many of you might know that city government funds the majority of its operations through sales tax revenues. Retail and sales tax is an important component to our city. It's also one of those things we can't live without and we know we need. But with a city so large and with so much opportunity for people to start new businesses and to keep up old businesses, it becomes a point at which you need to really start being strategic with strengthening nodes of retail and putting retail where people are going to visit that the most within our city limits. So we studied that to do a retail plan so we could really focus in and help strengthen the retail market we have and make a better market for future businesses to come to Oklahoma City. We also needed to understand how growth affected our parks and recreation system. So the Parks Master Plan was done through a joint effort with the Community Foundation, looking at the population coming to Oklahoma City and the anticipated places people might move and whether or not our existing park system is going to be enough to accommodate that growth, so that we could get ahead of the curve, so that we could evaluate what people were going to start using parks for in the future and whether or not our existing model was what we needed moving forward. We also wanted to understand the market that we had to be competitive, to bring in large-scale employers. Many other cities who bring in very large companies have large tracts of land that attract those employers to Oklahoma City. And believe it or not, we do have a lot of land, but it's not necessarily going to be attractive to everybody if it's not held in large pieces that they could quickly and easily assemble. So we did a study with the Chamber of Commerce to look at and analyze the land in Oklahoma City to see where the best locations would be to help let employers know we have land ready for them to come build to support our community and bring in jobs. With all of this, we wanted to look at how everything comes together. And this is where we use some really good high-tech computer modeling to take those 300,000 people and 170,000 jobs and look at how we grow. And these images on the screen show 3 different scenarios we modeled with that program. The top one shows that if we grew in the same way, using the same development patterns and trends that we have in the past, where the saturation of those people and jobs would be. So the darker the color means that the population and jobs are distributed there. And we modeled it to be a little bit more conservative or a little bit more aggressive in moving people and jobs to the places in Oklahoma City that we already had the highest quality and level of infrastructure and services. And it gets progressively more concentrated to those locations in Oklahoma City that are already built out and ready to serve. And then we calculated the cost associated with that, not just the cost of the city supplying services to the community, but also the cost to the community in terms of things like how much money do you spend in gas getting from your house to your job every day and back, air quality issues, environmental issues, so quality of life types of calculations we were able to model with this. And with that, it told us a little bit about where we need to really start putting efforts and emphasis and helping to initiate development in different physical locations in Oklahoma City. We wanted to study service efficiency that we could provide so that we knew which places in Oklahoma City were ready to develop and which places might be several years down the road. And overall, take the final concept that models the best growth patterns for Oklahoma City and study its health or its impact on health to the community. And this is where we measured all 3 scenarios in giving people opportunities to get out of their cars, to walk, to have access to healthy foods, lots of different inputs in doing a health impact assessment. So with all of these things, all of these inputs, we were able to try to get to the place that we are now. We also wanted to make sure that we understood those intangible variables that we couldn't get from doing a study or an analysis. And this is where we've held all the different types of public meetings, many special meetings, going out to groups and organizations, talking to them, working with the chamber, school districts, and other city managers in our surrounding cities. And then we did develop our stakeholder groups. These groups were able to break down and focus on pieces of the plan at a time. And then we had our Healthy Communities Oversight Group, whose responsibility was taking all of those pieces of the plan, analyzing them together, and making sure that we were getting a healthy economy, a healthy and sustainable environment, and a healthy population out of it. And of course, our citizen advisory team, which really appreciate you guys, your involvement over the past several years, which we thought you were going to be on the hook for a year, and we appreciate that you have let this process play out and have stuck with it over that time. We've had many other public meetings and workshops where we could really drill down into the content. An interesting concept that we did was a meeting in a box, so that people could take something out to their neighborhood association meeting, facilitate the discussion among the residents, package it up and seal it back in a paid, stamped, sealed envelope, and we could come back and process what neighbors thought on a very specific level. So this was a great tool that we had to give us insights in the real issues and challenges that are facing our neighbors today. Again, a neighborhood workshop and goal development workshops. We've also met with all of the commissions and committees that deal with decision-making on a day-to-day basis for the city to find out what challenges they perceive and what tools they would need to do their work in the best possible way. We also had several workshops that looked at those growth scenarios and talked about those tangible and intangible costs to the city and the community to get an idea of the vision that our community has and how we should grow in the future. And then we drilled down into pieces of the plan once we developed it with focus groups. And those focus groups really started to look at how the policies impacted day-to-day business that we do, and issues with suburban growth, rural growth, making sure that we accommodate all of the different lifestyle options that we serve in Oklahoma City today. And then I mentioned online feedback. We tried to do as much as possible to replicate what we did in the public with opportunities for people to go online. We had some great tools that we used, a crowd gauge survey which talked about people's priorities for the future and tried to see if the actions that the city could put in place actually would support those priorities. And it was a great exercise of balance in knowing that there's not enough money and not enough time to go around to make everything happen for everybody. We have to choose our priorities. So this was a really good tool to try to gauge where we should focus our efforts. Of the surveys that we did, a lot of those studies were accompanied by surveys. These were statistically significant surveys, meaning that we had to get a certain sample size to represent the general population of Oklahoma City. That sample size had to represent the demographics of our city so that we knew it wasn't just targeting one specific group within the community, but really representing our community as a whole. So we focused in on housing needs and demands, what people thought about community appearance in Oklahoma City, what we could be doing better, and what might be influencing people's choices of where they lived, what home they purchased, whether they felt safe in certain neighborhoods. A park survey about whether or not our park system was really serving people's needs, business surveys, and an overall general survey at the end of the process. We also wanted to make sure that people could contribute to the overall vision of the plan, and so this was a fun little card survey, not statistically significant, but certainly fun, and people had a lot of fun with it. And making sure that the issues that we identified were the most important issues for us to focus on. So from that process, we were able to glean some major concepts that kept rising to the top of our issues from the community. And I'm going to go through a few of these big ideas or themes that the plan is really trying to focus on within the next several years. And it would be to increase choices, transportation choices and mobility options for people in Oklahoma City, and developing a transportation system that works for everyone. So what this means is we're really going to start focusing on getting options for people to use public transportation better and more efficiently, to ride their bikes on city streets, which we're starting to really understand and deal with a connected bicycle trails system. We're looking at more sidewalks. We're putting those sidewalks in with our MAPS projects. We know that we have a lot of ground to cover, but we know that people are asking for the ability to do that, and it's a very important one for us to address. We know that housing choice is another big factor in people choosing to live here and stay here. And we want to make sure that our housing market has enough variables that we have something for people to find and move into through different stages of their lives. Healthy citizens. These are in no particular order of importance, by the way, because it is very important that our community is healthy and stays healthy. And we know the way that we build our community and design our community influences our behaviors and our patterns. We want to make sure that we create that urban environment that makes a healthy choice an easy choice for people. We want to make sure that we have an attractive community. We know that we will attract more people to come to Oklahoma City and stay in Oklahoma City and enjoy where it is, keep our property values high, and this is a standard that all of us would aspire to achieve. We want our neighborhoods to thrive, of course. We want to make sure that they're stable, safe, attractive, and vibrant. We know that as our city has grown and as we've developed new neighborhoods, older neighborhoods have not had the same level of care as they've aged out. We want to refocus those efforts and make sure that our older neighborhoods are kept as thriving neighborhoods and our new neighborhoods don't grow to the point that they are in a state of disrepair. We want to make sure that our development patterns are efficient, that we're able to continue to serve the community with high-level services. We want to make sure that as development happens, we think about sustainability, that economic sustainability, the quality of life piece for our community. And we also want to keep in mind the fact that Oklahoma City has some great natural character and that we have areas where we have prairies, rivers, we have wooded areas in the eastern part of our city. We want to make sure that as the city grows that we respect our natural resources, our high quality of water. We want to make sure that we protect the rural character that people have bought into and love so much and living in that lifestyle. So these are a lot of goals for us. And how we have organized our plan around this hopefully will help us achieve all of those big picture ideas. The three major pieces of the plan document that you will see when you go in to review it is a development framework that deals with the day-to-day decision making for new development that's going to happen in the future. The other piece is breaking the plan down into elements, and these elements are things like transportation, parks and recreation, economic development, and really focusing in on some initiatives that we could do. These initiatives could be partnerships, programs, they could be changes to legislation, things that are maybe a little bit beyond the day-to-day operations and dealings of the City of Oklahoma City. And we want to make sure that all of these things are organized and implemented and that we're able to continue to focus on our priorities. So it's very important to have a system that we can keep track of all of these things and understand who is responsible for doing what and having goals for implementing them within a certain time frame. So first, on the development framework, just to walk you through, this is the nuts and bolts of a comprehensive plan, is to develop a land use plan. The land use plan is coming up with categories to put land in Oklahoma City according to these land use typology areas. This describes the type of development that happens in different places in Oklahoma City in terms of what types of land uses exist in that, how dense those areas are in terms of how many people live per square mile, and the intensity of development in that, and the physical characteristics of that development. And when you look at the way that development patterns are spread across Oklahoma City, you start to see some of these land use typologies forming. We have dense downtown areas, we have inner city urban areas, we have suburban areas, we have rural areas. So those are the types of land use patterns we've seen. And we base these areas on the suitability and the availability of land we have to accommodate future growth and the efficiency of the services that we have to provide and accommodate that growth. And this is what the land use plan map looks like on this next slide. A lot of different colors, a lot of different designations. This land use plan map is more detailed than any of the land use plan maps that we've ever used before because our city is a dynamic creature. And we want to make sure that we can direct growth where it's most appropriate in key locations where we believe it will be most successful and most readily served. So these different typologies, I will briefly go through in the next slide. That we have our open space areas and our rural areas. We have our lowest density and intensity of development in those areas, acreages and farms. We have our urban areas, and within those urban areas, we have low, medium, and high designations of urban, and our downtown area. We're also looking at a system of layering typology. So we know within each of those, we're going to have areas of concentration or focus on specific things. Like, for example, a regional district might exist within one of our suburban areas or one of our downtown areas. We have urban commercial districts across the city in specific locations. We want to encourage transit-oriented development. So this is where our public transportation system could be developed and have development complement that. We want to make sure that we keep places that are heavy industrial for heavy industrial development, because a lot of times heavy industrial development is not the best neighbor to things like a neighborhood. We have to protect our neighborhoods against certain types of land uses. And urban reserve. This is the land that would be our future urbanized area, but is not quite ready for urban development at this time because it's not served by city water and sewer. And we also have our employment reserve, which is land we'd really like to concentrate those large-scale employment uses and give a signal to large employers that we have land ready and available for them. And then the agricultural preserve, which is land far off, way away from urbanization that might still be in active agricultural use. So the next slide just shows all of the different types of land uses that come together in Oklahoma City, and to accommodate all of these things, we don't want to preclude mixes of uses existing next to each other where they are good neighbors. So we've developed a system so that you can look at land use and the compatibility of these different types of developments with their next door neighbors. So as the city develops and as new development proposals come into the city, you would have to evaluate that development based on the land use typology area that's defined, and you'd also have to look at other impacts that development would have to its neighbors, such as traffic issues, the scale of the building, whether or not it's compatible with what's existing next door to it, the way the site is designed, and other operational impacts, things like noise, odor, light. If you can evaluate a project against what's going next door, you can you can build a better quality project that helps to offset some impacts to that project that might have been considered incompatible in the past, but through thoughtful design and consideration, you can make these things work together to get more mixes of uses integrated into our urbanized areas. We've also looked at how our streets complement the land use that happens on both sides of them. Understanding that we have streets that stretch all the way across Oklahoma City that are classified as an arterial street, for example, but we know that the character of that changes. From one edge of the city, that arterial street is very rural in character, and as it travels through our city, becomes very urban in character, and then it might end up being rural on the other side of our city again. The design of that street directly impacts how successful the operations will be and the future development will be on both sides of that street. So the system for establishing typologies so that we have an idea in the future as we're doing street improvement projects or street widenings, we know how we can support the type of development that we would like to promote in Oklahoma City across those corridors. And the next slide shows a picture of what we're talking about. For each one of those street classifications, we've done what the ultimate street profile would look like, knowing that we have to work with this in each specific location in Oklahoma City and modify it to the right-of-way that we have to work in and to what's happening on both sides of the street. But this gives us a better idea of the aim that we have to make sure that our land use system and our transportation system is going to support and complement each other. We also want to make sure that as we're spending money on our capital improvements moving into the future, that we're able to understand all of the different components that go into giving those limited dollars our priority. We want to provide as much analysis in this comprehensive plan to decision makers as possible. We want to make sure that we're considering the need for the improvement based on what we currently have and the gaps that we currently have in our system. We also want to make sure that there is an evaluation process for looking at the priority of that investment and the highest level of need, how many people it serves, if we're really getting the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. So the comprehensive plan sets a thought process that we can go through to evaluate the hundreds of projects that will come in for consideration in our capital improvements program and our next general obligation bond program. So the second set of indicators in our plan for helping to promote thoughtful growth in Oklahoma City is through these different initiative elements, which I've mentioned before for land use, transportation, environmental. And I wanted to show you an example of one of the chapters that you might see in the comprehensive plan. This chapter is Live OKC. Each one of the chapters is given a little name that ties back to the planOKC theme. So Live OKC is our communities element. And within each element, this is where we've captured our community's goals. So for example, the communities element has 7 goals for neighborhood safety, schools, housing, neighborhood stability, food systems, transportation choice, and social connections. How we've organized the plan is to make sure that we have initiatives that address each one of those goals. We also understand that those initiatives may address more than one of those goals. So we've put the initiatives together in the plan to outline which of those goals they're addressing. So for an example, some of our initiatives might be to enhance crime prevention and effective policing, which strengthens neighborhoods, to incorporate safety into neighborhood design. This is getting down to the level of actually building new neighborhoods and thinking about them in different ways so they have different influences to the people who live there in surrounding areas. If you go to the next slide, you can see how each one of those initiatives is then outlined in the plan with more detail. So for example, the 7th initiative to revitalize and stabilize urban neighborhoods talks about some actual tasks and things we can do and check off. One of those might be to expand rehabilitation and redevelopment programs to stabilize the physical fabric of neighborhoods. So with each one of these elements, you will see hundreds of strategies and initiatives and how they tie back to the community's goals in the process. And how we're keeping track of that is through this implementation matrix. So for each one of those policy recommendations, we're identifying who does it, what goals and initiatives they tie back to, understanding that one of those community initiatives for neighborhoods may not just be supporting a goal for the neighborhoods element, but it also might be tying into a transportation element initiative of connecting people to their places of work or to their corner store through a connected sidewalk system. Maybe an environmental issue. They may have cross-connecting goals and issues in this document. We want to identify what type of implementation action it might be, who is the responsible party for helping get it done, and when we should expect that we are going to be able to accommodate all of these different initiatives with limited staff resources and limited timeframes. Knowing that it is a long-range plan, this was the hardest part of our document to do because we feel like we want to do everything tomorrow, but we know that it's going to take years to fully implement our plan. So what's next in this process? Well, of course, I mentioned you are here because we want your input. We want your feedback. And our public review and comment period will be open until the middle of March. And you have two ways of seeing the plan. It's online at okcopencomment.us. And there are hard copies available in local libraries. So if you're a hard copy person, you really want to see it, feel it, and read it. You can use comment cards in the library and give them to the staff at the library, and they will turn them in to us. After that, as I mentioned, we'll finalize the plan and route it for adoption. So we're looking at probably April and May for that process. And I wanted to quickly show you for the online comment tool how easy it is to use. This is a snapshot from the OKC Open Comment page. So when you go to the page, you will see the document there. You'll need to log in and create a user account. And this is only if you want to leave comments. If you just are interested in reading the plan, do so in all your spare time. If you would like to leave comments, go in and create a username and password, which is what the next slide shows, what that looks like. And once you do that, you can go into each one of the chapters or sections of the plan. So say you're really not interested in the environmental section of the plan, but you're really interested in the economic development section of the plan. You can just focus your time and energy on reviewing that one chapter. So you click on the chapter and make sure that you go all the way down to the bottom because there are more chapters that don't show up when you scroll down, so you have to click on Load More at the bottom of the page. And once you get into the chapter page, you're able to peruse the plan. If you go to the next slide, it shows that you can highlight any section of text, highlight any portion or paragraph in that plan document, and leave a comment. So when you click on that, it'll pull up a comment field, type your comment in, and then you'll see that it's worked by a little bubble that pops up. So you can click on other people's bubbles and read what they've written in a comment about that. That way, if somebody's already captured what you think, you might not need to spend the time to write an additional comment. It's a very easy process. It also has some little tools at the top, so you can zoom in, you can download the section and read a hard copy if you'd like. So we hope that this will be an easy, quick, interactive way for you to give us your feedback immediately online. So with that, that is the overview. I would like to have our staff, I'd like to acknowledge our staff, have them stand up, because this is the part where you get to go eat yummy refreshments in the lobby and ask us any of the questions that you might have after hearing this, 10,000-foot view of the comprehensive plan. So I'd like to introduce our Assistant Planning Director, Ian Colgan, who's been instrumental in getting our plan done since he came on board about a year ago. And here's Jeff Butler up here. He's the Wizard of Oz man behind the curtain on that. Jeff has been involved in the economic development and land use section of the plan, so if you have questions specific to that, he's our expert planner on that. Let's see where else we have staff hiding in the back of the room. There's Randy Ince in the corner. Randy's specialty and focus is transportation element, but you can talk to him about environmental or parks and recreation as well. Jared Martin. Jared is our official environmental expert. He'll be outside if you'd like to talk to him about the green OKC element. Let's see, who else do we have? John Tankard is our staff person who did our health impact assessment for our plan, which is one of the first health impact assessments that I think our city or any other city that I know of has done on a comprehensive plan of this scale before. So we really applaud his efforts. There are other people out in the lobby. I think Ken Bryan is hiding out in the lobby. Who else are we missing? If they look official and they're loitering, they're probably one of our staff members. And any other staff that came that wasn't on the planOKC team, I see Kim Cooperhart sitting in the back of the room. Kim is one of our planners on staff that focuses her efforts on our commercial district revitalization program. And that's one of the things we're really trying to reinforce with the comprehensive plan, strengthening those existing commercial districts because they have such a corollary effect to the strength of the neighborhoods that are around them. So Kim does great efforts for Oklahoma City in working on that project. You can ask her questions too, even though she's probably not really officially on the clock. With that, though, we'd like to invite you for question and answer in the lobby, and thank you again for coming tonight. We will be here as long as need be, even though they'll probably try to kick us out at 7:30. But thanks again for coming.